a reason for that? No? Okay. All right. The Zoom platform's open, appears open, and I see attendees there. So I will call this meeting to order. This is the October 4th, 2023 regular meeting of the Luzerne County Board of Elections and Registration. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we'll have a roll call. Ms. Fasaro? Here. Mr. Mangan?
Here.
Mr. Schramm?
Here.
Ms. Cerniak?
Here.
And Ms. Williams here, all present. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Fasaro. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mangan. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? None heard. The agenda is adopted. We'll now move into public comment on agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters listed on the agenda. It's limited to 3 minutes and 1 comment time per person, please. We'll start with those who are in person. If there's anybody in person who would like to speak. No? Okay. We'll move to the Zoom platform. If anyone would like to speak on the Zoom platform, just click the raise hand button on the bar at the bottom. If you're on a phone line, you can raise your hand, I'm told, by pressing *9. I don't see any hands raised to speak. If you are on a phone line and you'd like to speak and you're unable to, you can just unmute by pushing *6 and just start speaking. I do see that there is one person on a phone line.
This is Robin Koshan, Dallas Township, and I'd like to comment on agenda items 3 and 5. First, why does agenda item 3 indicate a review of select ballot drop box video footage and not all of it? Is it because the board chair previously stated she does not want to take the time to view it? How can you affirm that voting through drop boxes is honest when no one is viewing the surveillance footage? That was supposedly our guarantee for fairness. Thankfully, board members Mangan and Fusaro take their responsibility seriously and show a willingness and understanding of why viewing this footage is critical. It's unconscionable that the chair wants to add more drop boxes when she won't take responsibility for guaranteeing the security of the ones already placed. If the chair insists on having mail-in drop boxes, then she must fulfill the obligation with bipartisan review of all surveillance footage, no matter how much time it takes. Mail-in voting drop boxes have wasted time and taxpayer money, as well as created opportunity for voter fraud. Please don't insult us by stating any of it is paid for by a federal election integrity grant, which is funded by our taxpayer dollars. If you are not going to be fully responsible for this method of voting, there is no justifiable reason to have drop boxes. Instead of obfuscating, why aren't you doing whatever it takes to be transparent? Saying you don't have time is unacceptable. However, to eliminate hardship on the chair and other board members, even though you've brought this on yourselves, since drop boxes are purely optional and not required by law, we concerned voters suggest you also include bipartisan citizens to assist in the hours required for viewing all footage. Yes, we care that much about voter accuracy to take our time for a job you should be doing. The DA's refusal to provide investigation results on potential fraud from 3 elections as far as 2021 and with another election approaching is just as irresponsible. His utter disregard for voter accuracy is another reason why the public demands transparency. We strongly encourage the chair, board members, and the DA to consider how such neglect impedes election integrity and fuels public distrust. The county must stop stalling by denying right-to-know requests and instead honor the judge's decision for citizens to see the surveillance footage. If there's absolutely nothing to hide, then there is absolutely no reason not to view all of it. We fully expect leadership to end the county dysfunction and actually work for and with we the people who are paying your salaries and benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cochin. I don't see any other hands raised, no other phone lines. So at this point, and I don't have any emails that were sent to read, so we'll move into the next part of the meeting, which is the approval of the meeting minutes, prior meeting minutes. And we have two. We have the September 7th, 2023 special meeting minutes. They were attached to the agenda. They were pages 3 through 6. And we have the September 13th, the last regular meeting, which was, they were also attached to the agenda, pages 7 through 11. So we'll start with the September 7th special meeting, 2023 special meeting minutes first. Is there a motion to approve?
Make the motion.
Motion is made by Mr. Mangan. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Fusaro. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? None heard. The September 7th, 2023 special meeting minutes are approved. Is there a motion to approve the September 13th, 2023 regular meeting minutes?
Make the motion.
Mr. Mangan makes the motion. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Fusaro. All in favor say aye. Aye. Abstentions? Opposition? None heard.
I wasn't there for it, so I can't vote.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Mr. Schramm abstained. He wasn't present for the meeting, so he's abstaining from the vote. It passes 4-1, and the meeting minutes are approved for September 13th, 2023 regular meeting. Thank you. We'll now move into the agenda items. The first agenda item is campaign finance report filing, current status 2022 annual report filing status. And this is on the agenda for information. This is just something we've been just following. If you've been following the meetings, you're aware that we've had campaign finance report filing on the last 3 to 4 meetings, just getting an update at each meeting. At the last meeting, it was reported that that's really kind of the only thing that was undone at that point, and it still was to be addressed. So I just kept it on the agenda. So we'll just ask for an update from the election.
Sure. I just wanted to point out that Steve Hahn is here today, so just want to welcome him. He is our new elections operations specialist, so I just wanted to say that. So.
Okay, welcome.
Welcome.
Congratulations on the position.
So we've been reaching out to obtain any campaign finance reports that were missing. I believe what we have right now on the web is current. I believe there was only about 3 or 4 missing. As we're going through them, we're working with the committees to make sure that they file them. I believe one of the issues with one of them was they filed with the state instead of with us. So we're just trying to straighten those kinks out so that way we have everyone's 2022 in, so that way we have no problems when it comes to certification. So,
okay. Anybody else? Any input on that? Any questions from you? Okay. Item number 2, mail-in ballot curing notification for the November 2023 municipal election. I put the standard of practice and this is for the board for election day curing. And it was on the agenda for pages 12 and 13, which is has been one of the what we've always done with the board is every election. We don't use this as going forward. We've never voted on going forward. We will always cure on election day. It's always something that we vote on before each election and decide with each election. So I did put the what the process that we've used in the past, and it hasn't changed any. And again, it was pages 12 through 13 on the agenda. So I'll open that. And this was on for information discussion and board vote. Again, it's the same procedure we've used for the past multiple elections. And after we have voted in the past, either myself, the vice chair, have contacted the party chairs to send them the information on it and how we would contact them and when. And then they do all the legwork on notifying any voters if we give them a list of their names and phone numbers and the deficiency in the mail-in ballot. So I'll open it up to discussion. Any questions before we would proceed to voting on if we're doing this for the November 2023 election?
Well, as always, I think balloting and voting should be on election day only. If you choose mail-in balloting, then you should be responsible enough to make sure that all of your information is correct and done properly and sent in a timely manner and in a proper manner. And if you can't do that, then I, really I've always had an issue with curing ballots. I will continue to always have an issue with voting on this and curing ballots. So that's just my little spiel that I like to say every single time I lose this vote.
Anybody else? I would just like to add that when you're at the poll, if you have an issue or a concern, you're able to ask a poll worker a question, you're able to get assistance, you're able to correct your ballot if you do something wrong there, to ask for a new ballot if you make a mistake. So I don't feel that it's any different in offering mail-in voters an opportunity to go to the poll and vote provisionally, that be notified that there was a problem with their mail-in ballot. I don't know that many that we get to the party chairs, and if it's on them to contact. We have nothing to do with it passing it along to the party chairs. I don't know that there are large numbers that cure, and from the past it doesn't appear that way, but we've made the attempt, and I think it's a good thing to try to help everyone's vote count, and I'm a big proponent of that. Any other board members? I'll make a motion to provide mail-in ballot curing notification for the November 2023 municipal election.
On election day.
On election day. Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Mangan. We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Schramm.
Yes.
Ms. Cerniak.
Yes.
Ms. Fusaro.
No.
Mr. Mangan.
Yes.
And Ms. Williams, yes. The motion passes 4-1 to provide mail-in ballot curing notification for the November 2023 municipal election on election day by the board to the party chairs. We'll now move to item number 3, which is creation of a bipartisan team to review select ballot drop box video surveillance footage. Mr. Mangan asked for this to be put on the agenda. It's on the agenda for information, discussion, and board vote. I'll turn it over to Mr. Mangan.
Thank you. I did bring this up at the last meeting and put it for a vote, which was struck down, but given the opportunity to present additional data to the board within reason, I've given the opportunity to present it again, so I'm grateful for that. I've given this a tremendous amount of thought since I presented this originally. Prior to my joining the board, it was agreed upon to accept drop boxes within our election cycle. Subsequent elections, it was agreed upon as well by those members voting in the affirmative to maintain and continue with drop boxes. The criteria that we had all agreed upon during the votes that I participated in, clearly we stated that the requirement for surveillance video was necessary for our own gratification in terms of complying with the courtesy of the drop boxes. A question regarding the district attorney's response to requests for reports kind of was a catalyst for me to realize that I felt personally and I'm not speaking disparagingly of other board members, that I was negligent myself in not taking the time to review those video surveillance footage that, that I feel we have an obligation to do. Now, it was brought to my attention as well that I have the opportunity as a board member at any time to go in and request to view that footage. So, but me by myself is just one in what I see and what I think I see. So I would like to propose the following. I would like to propose that, given the fact that there is a statute of limitations with regard to election fraud that goes back from what I've been instructed approximately 2 years, that you stated that you and Mr. Nardone had reviewed footage from the November 22 election, 21 election. Unfortunately, the November 22 election would be, I'm sorry. Yes, that is outside the scope of what would be feasible to, even in the event that it was an infraction occurring, would be almost impossible to pursue any type of prosecutorial.
Not really. They're still within limit. Because it would have happened during the election season. Depends on the date, but
Well, this is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
it depends.
I'm just
Yeah.
presenting now as
Go ahead,
as an
I'm sorry.
overall what I'm trying to propose. We
Yeah.
can, this isn't defined, it's just an overview. So while it would be nice to sit and review everything, we can't do that. And I understand the public's point about it. This is something that we probably should have been doing all along. However, I would propose that we would take the general election of November 22 and the primary election of 23. I would request of the Bureau to provide me the data showing the number of ballots that were dropped in the approved drop box locations. Take a sampling of the days that had the highest percentage of activity, one day from each of the 4 or 5 locations, and as a bipartisan team, sit and review that footage. I think we have the ability to fast forward, go through, so if there's a lull, we're not watching vacant screen time. And then at that point, if as a bipartisan team, we find something that appears to be an infraction or a suspect of an infraction, we can record the date, the time, the location, and if necessary, bring in the board as a whole to sit with us and share our thoughts on what we each see and whether or not it warrants further investigation. I had also considered the possibility of trying to do something once the drop box is open. In other words, try to kind of catch it in time. So the next, the end of October, when the drop boxes are put out and the ballots start coming in, being able to randomly go and view the footage. I realized upon further investigation that the way it works is that a day or two after the election is when IT goes and recovers the flash drives that have recorded it. But I would recommend that we make it a point to schedule a specific time soon after, actually prior to certification, to sit and follow a similar pattern of those locations that show the highest percentage of Dropbox, and at least do our due diligence on reviewing those 4 locations to ensure that there's in fact election integrity, reduce the possibility of election fraud. So if there's any discussion on your part prior to me making the motion, I welcome your thoughts.
All right. I do have some, and then certainly the rest of the board members, and then we'll proceed to the motion. First, I have also put a lot of thought into this since our last meeting, and I think it's a good thing. I really do. I think it's a great way to do random checks for not only individuals putting in multiple ballots, and we've had a lot of I don't know if I'd say allegations, but concerns from the public addressed to us at our board meetings about ballot harvesting. So maybe this could put it to rest. Also, though, there are other things that in thinking about it, I thought we could also assess, which would be if there are any individuals hanging around ballot drop boxes, patrolling ballot drop boxes, which shouldn't be happening. Any instances of anybody trying to tamper with a ballot drop box would also show up on the video surveillance, which would also be something to be very concerned about. Some questions I have is just, in the defining of how this is done would be, I would want it to be done right. I know that in the one public comment, the one member of the public just this evening mentioned wanting to have other people brought in by the board to view, which really is a right to know request for members of the public to do something. This is the board viewing. It's different. So as for a bipartisan team, my interpretation of that from the last meeting was within the board, like
Yes.
2 members, because 3 becomes a quorum and requires public meetings. So I know we went over this with when we formed our bylaw committee, and we started with 3 and then realized that was going to be a lot of work, and we changed it to 2. And I'm in agreement with that. Also, I would want to know that this is done together, that neither one of the bipartisan team is doing it on their own. I think it's good for account, I think it's good for both of the team members to always be together when they're doing this, because you'll be accessing external drives. I don't know about flash drives. I think they're all external drives, and just for accountability to be able to say, we were both there, and how those things, the chain of command of the external drive or flash drives is all done written out. If you're given access to it in a room, it's just you, and it's just whoever we determine, and no one else is allowed to come in or invited to come in to do this. And also these stay in-house, that they can't go home to be viewed on home computers because, there's a lot to do. So we'll just take them home and do it. So I think that we need to have some defining of exactly how this is done. Only that would be my thing. I'd be more comfortable knowing that this is done, and also for the public to know that this is done in a way where chain of command of all this stuff is done appropriately and with all the security concerns and who's doing it, who's viewing it, who's allowed to view it. And then to have a synopsis or a report brought back to the board by the team, whoever that is. And if necessary, I agree with Mr. Mangan that if something comes up, that whether we need an executive session first before we would bring it to the public, and that would be determined, I'm sure, by the Office of Law's guidance on how to best and appropriately handle a situation like that if we have to report something to the district attorney's office. I think that was all the notes I have made. I agree with everything Mr. Mangan said. I agree. I would certainly agree with his proposal of the 2022 general election, those data from the number of ballots and the sampling of the days, and taking some of the larger number of days. And, when I know that one of the members of the public, called me out because I said at the last meeting, that would be a lot. If you think about it and you do the math, if we were to go back, and I thought your intentions were to go back to the very beginning, which would have been November 2020 was the first ballot drop box. There was one in the vestibule of the Penn Place, to view every hour of that and all of the elections since, and they're there for weeks. That would be a huge undertaking and a lot of hours of viewing. The only thing, that was my concern, like, is that really necessary? Is that practical to get to you know, rather than like random samplings, and going forward to continue to do that. I agree with it. My only other question is, I don't know about prior to certification. I'm wondering, because we're so busy, and to be able to view this footage prior to certification, I don't know if it would be possible, because every single day up until certification, we're doing some kind of adjudication.
But we
So
do have-
I'm thinking about maybe right after
But
certification.
if you recall, after what I like to call Hell Week, we have that lull. We have the lull.
Mhm.
Oh, there's a day
Where?
or so. Yeah.
There's like 3 days of lull between when we reconvene.
Yeah,
2 days, you mean from election day to the Friday after, those 2 days?
So we get thrown into like 3 days of chaos, right? 3 or 4 days of chaos, right? We're together all the time, all day long.
Yeah.
But then there is a lull that occurs.
I don't know when that is, because I
Well,
know
there are,
Friday,
you know, there are times when we don't meet because the Bureau has to get stuff together
Yeah,
or
whether it's
equipment
setting up the
together
room
or, you know,
setting up.
yeah, I mean,
2 days.
there's the 3 days
Okay,
after
so
election.
what I'm thinking
Wow.
is IT, and first of all, with all of the points that you brought up, I have, my simple response to that is, of course. All the things that you talked about as far as reporting and sharing and confidentiality, and of course, yes, I didn't want to drill down into the minutia in my presentation just to get this going, but of course, yes. But I'm looking at possibly those few days where we have some time to do that. It gives IT enough time to obtain their flash drives. And we set aside a space, and two bipartisan people will sit and review select footage.
I mean, even if we're busy, 2 people doing that while the
Yeah,
other 3 are
mhm.
addressing other adjudication.
Yes, but I also have to be sensitive to the fact that the Bureau people
yeah,
within that time frame are still running frantic, doing their own responsibilities, that they're still uploading. There's a lot going on, and I don't want to take what I feel is our responsibility and displace more additional responsibility on the Bureau, because they're going through hell month there. But again, it's probably, I don't think it's that much of an inconvenience to request.
Trying to think of the lull period.
There's plenty.
There's,
There's the 3
I mean-
days, there's the 3 days
For that month.
immediately following the
well,
election.
they
two-
might,
2
yeah, they
days.
may
Yeah, but we
not
can't-
have
Okay,
the tapes
I
for that.
didn't get to talk yet. I was just
Okay.
wondering if I could. Okay, so they're the days after election, especially if we're talking about sampling in October and November, October leading into November, we would have those dates that we could, there are the 3 days following election. There are 3 or 4 days waiting after adjudication, waiting for the certification. We have to wait until the adjudication is finished. Then we have to schedule the meeting room and schedule the certification. So there's time in between there. There are lull periods, not for you, my dear, for us.
Well.
Okay.
And there's Thanksgiving as well.
Yeah.
So we, and trust me, we take every bit of that time. So we get right in there. So.
I don't think right after the election would work, just because we have to get the drives, which could take a little bit, just because usually the day after, IT is busy with trying to make sure that Cital is linked with the
Right.
results on our website, so I don't think.
Well, we can
that-
work on,
But
I mean,
I think that lull before certification, if there's a couple days where we're trying to plan, I have no, I don't.
that's what that's,
I'd like to
But I don't
finish.
remember it being.
There wasn't a low before the last 2 elections, before certification day. It was always on Monday. And the day
Wow.
before, we were actually, if we all remember, the last certification, we came here because we were working up until, and we weren't done. So we came here
Oh, yeah. then
and we left the meeting.
Yeah, we did.
We went back, there was no lull. And we came back here
Yeah, we
and we finished the meeting. There was not a minute.
Yeah, we took a break over. went
Yeah.
back over.
So
again, I don't want to get,
into semantics.
I'm just trying to think from our perspective on the time.
it is a time
Yeah.
within reason. First of all, come January, I'm no longer on this board. So if it happens while I'm here, great. If it doesn't happen while I'm here, that's okay too. I would just like to see it happen. I don't care if it's after certification. I threw that out as kind of like a goalpost. And it doesn't have to be, because certification is based on the data and the numbers. It's not based on whether or not there was election fraud or an infraction. And with a 2-year statute of limitations, it's a moot point. You can go back anyway if something was found. So I was just kind of throwing it out there to keep it in front of us within sight. And hopefully while it was fresh. Again, logistically, if it doesn't work and IT is preoccupied with other responsibilities, with CITL and so on and so forth, I'm aware of all the responsibilities people have in terms of reporting back to the state, everything that has to happen. And then working with our vendors to get data back so we can proceed with certification. I get that. So I guess as soon as possible, as soon as reasonably possible would be the criteria.
Sure, sounds good to me. I mean, we might hit a lull. We might get done early and say we have 3 days and we do it before
And not in the
certification.
general, I don't think that'll happen, but
We can hope.
to your other points though, Denise, I wasn't gonna go into all, yes, but of course, all those.
So can I finish talking?
Go right ahead.
I'm sorry.
Oh, all right, great. I think I think setting aside the time is imperative. And there is also a lot of times when we are sitting in that room, like waiting on ballots or waiting on something else, or, there is a lot of time, downtime. So if there's any possible way that can be queued up, I understand that there's other things in the office going on, and I understand CITL and everything else, but I'm wondering how this team would be created. I mean, are we nominating? Is that how we're doing that, or like creating this team as far as nomination?
It could be just who's available, as long as it's bipartisan.
Okay.
This
Would
is
you agree
something
with-
I just want to add in on that because I did have that question as well, and you're bringing it up. I'm so glad you did because I forgot to mention it. And I'm wondering if this should be put it into our bylaws as well. The determination of the bipartisan committee, the last time we did it, we kind of voted on it. We talked about it here. Now, knowing that we're creating our bylaws, when the county council creates a committee, the chair assigns, I believe. Now, I might not be correct. You can certainly correct me. So, and I don't think they vote on it. Now, is this something we want to discuss and say, going forward, do we want to do what we did the last time with the bylaws, just kind of talk about it and put some names out there and vote on it as a board? Do we want the board to do that, these types of committee creation that way? Or do we want the chair, and this is subject to amendment of the bylaws as it goes on by future boards, but for this board, do we want to do that like some other boards and like the county council? The chair assigns the committee members. So I'm just throwing that out.
Well, I think for this purpose, honestly, I think neither. I think you're right. I think it should be whoever's available, like, Alyssa and Danny, the videos are ready. Are you guys okay with viewing these? And then Denise, sort of like we do with the letters, with the letters, the curing list. Okay, where, whoever's available can go down and view. And, setting aside that time, I think that's a wise idea, because the minute we get into, and then somebody doesn't show up or is incapable or anything else, or changes, I think just stating that it's the bipartisan team is a wise thing. When it comes to the committees, that's something we need to talk about. I don't know if it's always wise to have one person make that decision. I think voting on the committee members of certain committees, maybe in general, maybe something we should all do and determine who's best for that position.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm-
Do we really have to create a committee or? can we
No,
just
no,
adopt the
I think
policy?
we're talking about committees in general for the bylaws.
Well,
Could we
I'd like
adopt
to,
the policy?
personally, I'd like to, my take on it is that when you presented it, it was going to be a committee, a bipartisan team of two. And I personally would like it to be, if you're going back and you're reviewing two past elections, I would like it to be a defined two people who would meet, get together, determine when you're meeting, meet, and only go there when you can get together, like a committee. And then come back to us with a report. The other part of going forward, I mean, I would say keep that committee. And then when a committee member goes off, then we have to, like, if you leave in the end of December, then we have to add a new, and that has to be bipartisan. That's what I would say. And so that becomes that person then has to be replaced when, or the other one if they go off as well. But my preference would be it'd be a committee, and since your plan was to start on that, going through those two older ones, to meet and do it on your own and report back to us. And then when it comes to after the election day, that's your thing too, and you come back to us. I mean, I'd rather it that way than, having to make a plan and figure it out, and yeah. Whoever is on the team, and we could vote on that.
Okay, I agree basically with pretty much everything people are saying, and I'm not going to repeat it all. I did have one question perhaps for the Office of Law. I believe it's the 2022 general election. The footage is currently under litigation.
That is warehouse video.
Oh, okay. It's only for the
With
warehouse.
the right to know, yes.
Okay, so then this would not affect
This is-
anything.
no,
Oh,
this is
okay.
Dropbox
All right.
stuff.
It's just the Dropbox videos, then yeah. All right.
Now, it was also the Bureau video footage that was with the warehouse. Did the Bureau video footage and that right to know include the Dropbox at Penn Place?
I am not sure, not 100% sure. I don't know if anybody's on from,
So we would need to find that out
yeah.
for that one.
I don't know.
Maybe leave it
I'm
to
not
whatever.
sure about that, but you're talking about 2022.
Yeah.
So
That's the one. November
so
2022.
you're talking about the 2022.
General,
That's
yeah.
stuff that just came up, Paula, the right to knows and all that stuff.
Well, we have to preserve them, and but I don't think that would affect if you needed to see them for this purpose. You should be able to.
That's my only question.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm only looking at Dropbox. I'm not
Right,
looking
only
at
the
web-
Dropbox, yeah. I'm
Right.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you're talking about only the Dropbox too.
Correct. Correct.
Mr. Schramm, did you want to add anything?
No, I think we should review them. And I think after you review the first one, you'll actually find out how long it actually takes you to do. Maybe it's only going to take you 20 minutes to go through a couple of hours. If there's only, because if you fast forward, it only stops when somebody actually gets there. And then you only got a 2-minute increment when they come in and leave, and there's only 20 people. Well, now you've only spent 40 minutes and you've done the whole site. So that could be, and then you can also go in there where you have a lineup coming in where there's 5 or 6 at a time coming in. So I think you find out, maybe it will be able to view more than what you actually think. Depending, you can start out small, just doing the high things, then look to see if it's worthwhile looking at other footage that may be, of interest, especially if you're looking to see if somebody's loitering around or something. And I think one of the things that we would have to do right away would be is if the sheriffs go to pick up the ballots, and they open up the Dropbox and suddenly find out that it's filled with Coca-Cola. I think that's when you need to get that footage to see how the Coca-Cola got in it. Because now you've got a real serious problem. But if you just got 23 ballots here, then you're just gonna roll on, with it. But if there's actually something wrong, then I think that flash drive has to be pulled immediately and reviewed. That would be the only thing that I would say. Then you'd be really watching to see, because now you want to find out who did what.
So far, I haven't heard any Coca-Cola being in there.
No, the last one I heard was up in Boston when somebody firebombed it.
Let's not
And
give
that
any
was-
ideas to
Let's
the
not
public,
get-
please.
That was 6 or 7 years
Jim,
ago.
Audrey, did you?
So I would like to then proceed to make the motion. I would like to make the motion for the Luzerne County Board of Elections to create a bipartisan committee for the purpose of reviewing select Dropbox video surveillance footage.
We could do this in a couple different,
Yeah, I don't want to get into specific dates or anything, because then it kind of locks us in.
I was talking about like the committee members themselves. That could be a separate vote. You think?
Yeah. separate.
Okay, you want to do that? Well, let's just do this one first.
Sure.
Okay, so Mr. Mangan made the motion. Is there a second?
Second,
Seconded by Ms. Fusaro, and we'll have a roll call vote. Ms. Cernia?
Yes.
Ms. Fusaro?
yes.
Mr. Mangan?
Yes.
Mr. Schramm?
Yes.
And Ms. Williams, yes. The motion passes unanimously for the Luzerne County Board of Elections to create a bipartisan committee for the purpose of reviewing select Dropbox video surveillance footage. Okay. Is there a motion? We'll talk, maybe we should talk before there's a motion on the committee itself, we want a bipartisan team?
Yes.
I nominate, can we just open nominations?
Sure. I'd like to nominate Mr. Mangan and Ms. Cerniak.
I'd like to nominate Mangan and actually Danny.
Any other nominations? Not sure exactly how to do this. I guess we will vote on, who's Mr. Mangan? So we'll vote first for Mr. Mangan and Ms. Cerniak. Is that
Can
appropriate?
you
And
just
then-
do each name, I guess, right? Go through each person.
Can I just make a suggestion? Do you
Yes.
want only 2 people? Thank you. Do you only
Yes.
want 2 people on the committee? Oh, okay, because I was gonna say you could actually have 3, and then you would just have to make sure that Mr. Mangan was always there unless there was another person.
We can't because it's a quorum. It would have to be a public meeting.
Yeah, we're trying to stay away from it being a quorum for the public.
Okay, you don't want it for public. Okay, well then that doesn't work. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. All right, okay, so,
So there were 3 nominated. We go.
Mr. Mangan,
through
Ms. Cerniak.
Mangan first,
okay, so,
and then
we'll,
we go through,
Ms. Cerniak and then
Yeah.
Mr. Schramm. Okay, we'll start with, the vote for, Mr. Mangan, and we'll do a roll call vote. Let me write this down. Ms. Fusaro,
yes.
Mr. Mangan,
Yes.
Mr. Schramm,
Yes.
Ms. Cerniak,
Yes.
and Ms. Williams, yes. The motion passes unanimously that Mr. Mangan will be on the bipartisan committee to view the select Dropbox video footage. And now it is for Ms. Cerniak, Mr. Mangan,
Yes.
Mr. Schramm,
Yes.
Ms. Cerniak,
Yes.
Ms. Fusaro,
Well, I'm just the odd man out now. I might as well say yes.
and Ms. Williams, yes. So the motion passes unanimously for Ms. Cerniak to be on the bipartisan committee. So I guess we don't have to go forward with the vote for Mr. Schramm.
Sorry,
although he could be
I was pulling for you, buddy.
an alternate thought if something comes up and we need to have a replacement. So for future reference. Okay. I think we're moving on to number 4, which is the committee report. The Board of Elections and Registrations on the bylaws, which were, it was attached to the agenda. It was pages 14 through 20. And this is on the agenda for review, discussion, and board vote. I'll turn it over to the committee. This committee was Ms. Cerniak and Mr. Schramm.
Okay, the Office of Law reviewed it. She said that Paula's made some suggestions, mostly adding language from the different charter and from some of the other county documents, which I haven't put into a document yet. But yeah, I don't think there's really any substantive changes unless you want to put something in about committees, forming committees on there.
I would like to have you add work sessions.
I think I did.
Did you add that already?
Yeah.
I am so sorry.
That's all right. Yeah.
I
did
haven't
put
looked
some-
at the revised, one, like
Yeah.
I told you, with everything going on with the
Yeah.
hospitalization.
I think yeah,
That is in here.
somewhere,
Okay,
yeah.
all right,
There were-
cool.
Under, I think,
Yeah.
types of meetings or something, but I did put the work sessions. in there,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you, thank you, thank you. Good.
Just 3 things I had. They're just a couple typos and
Yeah.
a couple wordings. I mean, that can be proofed
Yeah,
prior to it being like, okay,
Here it
so
is.
I'll just start from
Thank you.
from the beginning. The note that was why not put the entire section, this was from the Office of Law, I think, and from the Home Rule Charter referencing the Board of Elections and Registration. I didn't look through this to see, is everything now in here or is there something missing?
probably not. I probably edited or just took parts of what the charter had listed, but. you can-
I would want to say
the whole
add it
thing.
all.
Yeah, all right.
Instead of just pieces of the home rule charter for the Board of Elections, I'd say just put it all in there. That would be my recommendation. There was nothing on this page. On the 3rd page, I think there should be a comma between the in and the but under the Roberts Rules of Order. There's an extra prior in, it says prior, take that one prior out. Under virtual meetings, the board members should attend meetings in person. Rare exceptions can be made if there are extenuating circumstances. I just put a question. Is it warranted to notify the chair so that the chair would be aware and awareness? That's all I'm saying,
Yeah.
because this way, if I would at least, or the chair would be aware that somebody's coming in on virtually instead of being in person and say they're not on, you could text them and say, I knew they were coming on, maybe there's a glitch or something, so we could,
Mhm.
but that was my only thing, just an awareness for the chair to notify the other board members if, and then if something's going on where there's a problem, and
Or
then
maybe even just with notification or something.
Yeah. There's a space on the 4th page, a space between emergencies and during, and that should be there. And the last thing was what I brought up about forming committees. Do we want to add anything or just leave it out? Or put in committees are formed by board vote?
Why don't we see how this goes?
No, it's added in.
And then, because it's amendable, you said, so,
Yeah.
I mean, we can always add it in, but let's see how
Yeah,
I'm all right with that.
okay, so I don't know.
Or anybody else want to give input on that or thoughts? Adding something about formation of committees?
I think we just leave it as is for now, but with things that have happened recently to me, which you guys know, I've been through a lot of personal issues lately. I don't like the prohibited from using cellular, mobile, or telephonic devices. I don't like that. I know it says unless media is necessary to operate in an emergency circumstances exists, but I'm not gonna have somebody looking over my shoulder to see who I'm texting if mom needs me or my aunt needs me. I just feel very strongly about that, especially with what's going on right now in my life.
Is discouraged maybe?
It discouraged me.
Okay.
Where is this?
All
Where
right,
is it?
wait,
What page is it
On,
I
it
can't read
says,
that far.
it says members are prohibited from using cellular, mobile, or
What page is that on?
device.
20.
Or maybe that's from county
on?
council.
Oh, here it
It
is.
might have
Members,
been, yeah.
okay, I see it. Members will refrain
No, this one says,
from using cell phones for
Prohibited.
personal matters except for emergencies during meetings.
this says prohibited.
Hmm.
Is this from?
I don't know which copy that is, because,
That's the minutes.
This is,
yeah. Oh, that's
Oh, that's
the
That's
minutes.
the old one from the
That might have
minutes.
been the old one from the minutes. Yeah, I think
That's
oh,
last meeting.
that's last, okay, yeah, that was updated.
Yeah, this is,
okay, so it was
Okay.
updated
How
since
did I-
then,
how did
never
I-
mind.
it says members will refrain from using cell phones for personal matters except for emergencies
Okay.
during meetings.
All right, that's fine. I'm good with
All right,
that.
then there's.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else? So, we'll vote on this. We'll vote on that
Yeah, okay.
or with those couple little
Yeah, all right.
grammatical changes and adding
And whatever,
notification to the chair if you're going to be on virtually.
Mhm.
And we're also adding the whole home rule charter reference to the Board of Elections. Okay, is going to be a motion for this?
I'll move then, yeah, we accept the bylaws with those changes.
Audrey made the motion to accept the bylaws with these changes that
I'll
we just
second
noted. Seconded by Ms. Fusaro, and we'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Schramm,
Yes.
Ms. Cerniak,
Yes,
Ms. Fusaro,
Yes,
Mr. Mangan,
Yes,
Ms. Williams, yes. The motion passes and we'll accept those bylaws with those few changes we just made and discussed during the meeting. I'd like to thank the committee, Ms. Cerniak and Mr. Schramm for doing all the work and putting this together, and the Office of Law's help with that. I think this is a really great thing to have. It's probably something that should have been done a long time ago, but we did it and you guys really did it. And it's a great thing. It really is a real positive. So hopefully once we get this finalized, it'll get up on the website under the Board of Elections and registration. Maybe Aaron could help with that. And then we would all get copies of it, our own personal copies to have ourselves. So that's all on that. Number 5 is the Luzerne County Office of District Attorney response from email request on the status of ballot drop box investigation reports from November 2021, May 2022, and November 2022. This was put on for information discussion. This is kind of a holdover from the last meeting. We discussed it. There had been a couple emails that I sent in follow-up to one Ms. Fusaro sent, inquiring on when we would be getting the reports on these without response. We discussed it, and the recommendation, the board members' recommendation was to send another email, which I did do. As suggested, I also included the county manager, the Luzerne County Council in my email, all the board members, and I did not get a reply. I don't understand that. I don't know what that's about, so I'm just sharing that with you. And so at this point, I think it's really probably too close to an election for a district attorney's office to put out something like this. It could maybe be considered interference with an election. So at this point, my thought is probably wouldn't be a good thing. It maybe should wait until after election, but I think the courtesy of responding to an email is really, I think, appropriate. And why there's no response, I don't understand that. I don't know. I'm kind of baffled by it. To just say I can't put it out now, we'll have to wait until December, or it wasn't able to get it out before election in the window, which it should have been out in. But I don't know. So I throw it out to the other board members. Any thoughts on that?
well, we have a law that was broken. We referred it to the district attorney's office for further investigation and requested a report. That was not done. When it's not followed up on in any other case, we forward it to the state attorney general's office. Any other crime is referred that's not followed up on by the local district attorney can be handled by the state district attorney's office. And that would be my suggestion, because to be honest here, we are running out of time, as Mr. Mangan had alluded to earlier. We are running out of time on some of these. I don't know when you guys viewed the Dropbox video from the November 2021 election, but you know, if it was in the beginning of November, you know, if it was mid-October, okay, I don't know when that was, and I'm not saying that you have to divulge that. What I'm saying is that this needs to be escalated now. And I think that if criminal charges needed to be pressed, then, and we didn't do our job by referring it or escalating it, then that's on us. If we wash our hand and we put it in the PA district attorney's office and they drop the ball on it, then we've at least done our job. Okay, at this point, I think we should escalate it and forward it on to the Pennsylvania district attorney's office, the state office, because obviously it's not being paid attention to.
Can I just comment on that? Just so you're aware, the district attorney has jurisdiction of the case right now. So the district attorney would have to ask the attorney general to take jurisdiction of that. Generally, it occurs in cases where there's a conflict of interest or some reason as to why the district attorney wouldn't be able to handle the matter. So you can
Well,
ask
we are
the
running-
attorney general, but I'm not sure, they're probably going to bounce it right back.
Right, and what happens is a letter gets sent to the district, the state's attorney's office, and they look at it and they say, okay, why is it not being handled? They'll question the local DA, and he may respond to them, well, I don't feel comfortable doing it before an election, or whatever his I'm waiting for the statute of limitations to run out. I don't know what his excuse is. I have no idea, but he will be able to deal with that with the state district attorney's office at this point. If we don't do anything at this point, I think we're not doing our jobs. I think something needs to be done. And I think I will also say that I think it is not a very, I'm trying to be kind here. I think it's, honestly, I think it's rude not to respond to emails. You could at least respond with a phone call and say, you know, here's the reason I don't want, you know, hold an executive session if you think it's necessary to discuss with the board why it's not being investigated, or why we are not allowed to have the reports, or what exactly is happening that, you know, we have not had some resolution in this. But to just leave it hanging there and not do anything, and we're sitting there watching the clock tick, I mean, it's not cool. I'm sorry, that's the truth. I think it just shows a lack of respect.
I think also what concerns me is the length of time these have gone on, and we have received a lot of public comment and a lot of complaints against us because of the ballot drop boxes. and, you know, fraud with the ballot drop boxes because of these incidents and which have not been, no one's been criminally charged with them. No one's been charged with fraud with them, but there's a narrative out there that because of those incidents, which are still under investigation, the ballot drop boxes are a big problem. Now, this has allowed that narrative to go on by having these investigations not closed. And I don't think that's fair to keep that narrative out there and what it does. So I would wish that when these things come up going forward, it would maybe we should handle it more like we did for November 22, when there was this situation with the mail ballots and we didn't allow it to go past adjudication. Then we kept saying, we need to know what, if we can count these mail ballots or not. And they addressed it. The detective went out, they discussed it with and brought us back the information. And then we voted whether to count those mail-in ballots or not. So we, maybe going forward, we need to handle adjudication with situations like this that way, so that these things don't go on and on. We know the answers, we know the situation, and we have to kind of push it and say, no, we need to know. I don't know, that's some thoughts in my mind, but certainly allowing these to go on for so long has become a concern, and allowed that narrative to continue. It went to the congressional hearing, they talked about it there, and it's leaving like a black mark on Luzerne County. It leaves a black mark on the ballot drop boxes, which I don't think is fair to put this narrative out there, but really not to have concrete facts saying that this is the case. My personal thought is, if there was really something criminal done, they've had these it would have been addressed. So that says to me, there's nothing criminal that was done with these. Otherwise, I think we would have heard about it a long time ago. But that's my personal thoughts on it. So anyways, other board members.
I feel that there should be an answer. It should be timely. Just like everybody has deadlines, the Bureau of Election had deadlines, so does the district attorney's office. They have deadlines to make sure they keep things current and offer replies to them. They have to be held accountable for their actions and also for their inactions. And I view this as an inaction, something that's been going on for months without getting a reply as to what the status is, shouldn't be allowed.
Actually, years on one.
I mean, that's something that, you know, you have a responsibility to report to people that have asked you to investigate something. You have a duty to report to them. You cannot just ignore it and say, well, I'll get to it eventually, because there are criteria that needs to be met. And it makes you look like you don't want to do something, but there should be a reply, a definite reply. And if you can't get a reply, there should be a definite way that you can go about it simply without having to try to jump through more hoops to try to get somebody to say, oh, well, we'll look at it now. It shouldn't be that you have to try to escalate this over and over. There's too much litigation and hiding and making amendments and everything else and excuses for everything that's going on. There has to be a quicker resolution of problems, not waiting for a year and a half. Because then you're waiting to see how many people die so they don't know who did it. That's it.
Anybody else?
Can I make a motion? Like to make a motion to forward this to the Pennsylvania State District Attorney's Office, both cases.
Well, there's actually, you mean the three?
The three,
Election?
I'm sorry, the three. Yeah, the three. Yeah, all three to the Pennsylvania State District Attorney's Office. If it bounces back to our regular attorney, I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with that, at
The
least.
Pennsylvania State Attorney General.
Yeah, that's what I meant. You know what I meant.
Okay, so the motion is to refer the matter to the
Attorney General's office.
Pennsylvania State Attorney General's office. Ms. Fusaro made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Schramm. Be a roll call vote. The referral. Ms. Cerniak,
Yes.
Ms. Fusaro,
Yes,
Mr. Mangan,
Yes.
Mr. Schramm,
Yes.
Ms. Williams, yes, the motion passes unanimously to refer this matter to the Pennsylvania State Attorney's Office. And we'll move on to item number 6, which is the November 2023 municipal election status update, including target date for mailing of ballots, logic and accuracy testing, polling place site status changes, information discussion, possible board vote, poll worker recruitment and training status, high school student poll worker initiative status, swearing in of mailroom employees, and the Jenkins Township and Nanticoke City ballot question explanation inserts to be included in the mail-in ballot envelope. So I think I'll just turn this over to the Election Bureau leadership, and they can just go down each one and try kind of give us an updated status on these.
So the first one, the target date for the mailing of mail ballots, we plan to send them out on Friday, the 6th. So we are, we're doing our test deck on Friday for the mail ballots. So we're anticipating everything to go well, and if it goes well, then we'll send them out Friday.
So you mean sending them to the vendor?
Yes.
Okay, so then the turnaround from the vendor to the, because when I read that in the paper, my thought was that maybe mail-in voters would be thinking they'd get it Monday or Tuesday, but that wouldn't be the case, right?
Well, the issue is we tried to pull the file today, but it's a large file, so it kind of timed out. So we're trying to either pull the file tomorrow or Friday. It's just, there's about 22,000 ballots, so that's 22,000 voters. So to pull that on the SHRC system is difficult because it freezes. So, so we're anticipating doing that tomorrow or Friday, just so we can get the file pulled and have everything ready to NPC. So that way on Friday after we do the test deck and everything looks good, we can just, everything's in queue and we can just tell them we're ready to go.
So the turnaround from NPC, the vendor to the,
A couple days.
oh, that's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so sometime maybe
I would
next week,
say
some mail-in
towards
voters would be.
the middle, end of next week. And then to piggyback off of that, the logic and accuracy testing, we'll be doing the mail-in ballot scanner testing Friday at 11 o'clock, Friday the 6th. And then for the machines, the logic and accuracy testing, that's going to start Tuesday, the 10th at 11 a.m. at the warehouse. And obviously both are open to the public. Anyone's welcome to attend, watch the process.
So when it starts at 11, and at the warehouse, which is on Water Street,
Yep, I believe it's 135 Water Street.
35 Water Street. And I just wanted to mention, like, it's not easy to find that entrance. So I'm just putting it out there to the public now. Like,
Towards
the
the
entrance
back.
is you
Yeah.
have to go all the way around the back, and it's like a little alleyway. Like, you wouldn't really know until you get to the door, there's a sign on it, but I don't know if maybe, you know, those tent signs that you put on the ground where it would say logic and accuracy testing? I don't know if that's a possibility to get like in the back parking lot, because it's so, I know where it is, but if I was going there the first time I went, I had a hard time finding.
Maybe we could put one of the vote signs out. That way people know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Steve just wanted me to remind everybody that the Friday mail-in ballot testing is going to be at Penn Place. That one's not gonna be at the warehouse.
301.
301, yeah, our room upstairs.
So, and then at 11 on the Tuesday, logic accuracy and
Yeah.
accuracy testing at the warehouse. At 11, will there be like a public talk on
Yeah.
like kind of an overview of what's happening? So if you wanted to go as a member of the public, it would be good to go at 11
It'd be
because you
good to
kind of
go at
get an
11.
overview and
Yeah.
a talk about what's going on, and okay, that would be the best time for the public.
And then for the polling place changes, I gave everybody a piece of paper that we've been working on. So we had a couple changes. Kingston Borough Ward 5, that's going to be changed to the VFW because the municipal building is doing some renovations. So they actually helped us and connected us with the VFW, and I personally went on the ADA visit with one of our staff members, and it's up to compliance. So that one's good to go. That was a new one. We've never used it before. And then Lehman Township District 1, that one we changed. It's going to be at the Lake Silkworth Fire Department. It was at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parish. I guess there was, I guess we've been using that church for a while, and we've been getting some complaints over the last 2 or 3 elections because it's not ADA compliant. It is. The site actually is, but what's happening is they won't open that door. So the site wasn't opening the door, and certain people couldn't get in that entrance, so it was creating a lot of problems. So we changed it to Lake Silkworth Fire Department. I personally went out with Joanne from our staff, and we did the visit, and it's very nice there. So we're happy that they're letting us use it. So hopefully we can keep it there as permanent. So. And West Hazleton Borough 1 and 2, they actually contacted us because I guess a couple years ago, the polling place used to be the West Hazleton Borough building. And then somehow, I don't know if it was due to COVID in 2020, it got changed to the West Hazleton Elementary Middle School. So the borough called us a couple weeks ago and asked if we could change it back to the borough building. So just because I know there's a couple issues with the school, with bathrooms and stuff, and a lot of, they don't want to use the same bathrooms as the kids and things like that. So we thought it was best to change it back to the borough building, which we've had there before. And then I have down here, I noticed Wilkes-Barre City Ward 5 and 6, St. Mary's Byzantine Catholic Church. I noticed that we had a different address than where the actual entrance is for the voting. So I know people have been voting there for years, but I think it's confusing to put the North Main Street address when the entrance is on Madison Street. So if it's okay, I would like to print them new cards and send them out just so they know what entrance in case there's any new voters, because it could be confusing there. Because I personally have been there. That address will take you to the front of it, which there's a parking lot around back, so it's easier to vote around back.
And all of the new sites, the 4 new ones, well, 3, because the 2, they're West Hazleton, Ward 1 and 2 are together. The changes, they're all within the same precinct or ward. Okay. And so these voters would all receive new cards.
Correct.
And a letter, and does a letter to come or just a new card? If they get a new card, they might not be aware of why they're getting a new card, would they? Or does a letter say you're getting this new card because your polling place
I'll
has
have to
changed?
check on the wording. I think they do get, I think they do get it that says, it's been a little bit since I've looked at the cards, but I think it does say that their polling place changed.
So we'll need to vote on these changes as a board to approve these
So we can
poll
get the cards
changes.
printed.
And then probably at the next meeting, we'll approve the rest of the polling sites because you don't have them all. You're not square and ready for us to vote on those yet, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so
Yeah, we had to send new polling place agreements out. We have most of them back, but there's a couple we're still waiting on. So we'll have them on the 24th.
okay. Does anybody have any questions about the changes in the polling sites before I make a motion?
Let me look at it one more time.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to accept the polling place changes. Kingston Borough Ward 5 to Kingston VFW Post 283. Lehman Township District 1, change to Lake Silkworth Volunteer Fire Department. West Hazleton Borough 1 and 2 to the West Hazleton Borough Building. And the address changes with the correct entrance address for the Wilkes-Barre City Ward 5 and Ward 6. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Mr. Mangan. I think he beat you. Okay, and so now we'll have a roll call vote for Ms. Fusaro,
Yes.
Mr. Mangan,
Yes.
Mr. Schramm,
Yes,
Ms. Cerniak,
Yes.
and Ms. Williams, yes. The motion passes unanimously to approve those polling place changes.
The next one we have poll worker recruitment training status. So we sent out letters to the poll workers about 2 weeks ago. We've gotten a really good response so far, around almost 400 poll workers that signed up for class. The first class we have starts on the 17th of October, and we have about 25 classes. So we have a lot of classes. I think before I left work today, there were 3 of them that were full. So we've gotten a good response so far. And I know we're working very hard on recruitment. I've gone to a couple colleges just to try to get more people involved and speak to the high school student poll worker initiative. We started that a couple weeks ago. I sent that packet that I gave the board, I sent that to all the schools, and our division head, Ms. Pecora, she actually went to a couple schools in the Hazleton area. She brought back a clipboard. We had about 25 students that signed up that were interested. So she went to another school this week as well. She had a couple people sign up. So we're asking one teacher for the school to kind of spearhead that. That way they can coordinate with me and get me the names, and I can get them signed up for training. So that's been going pretty well so far.
Can they get any kind of credits, the high schoolers, for, I thought I read something about doing the poll worker initiative, that they can get some kind of credits for graduation or towards college?
I don't think, I know we're gonna pay them for the day, and then I know some of the schools have even, they're excusing the students for the day. Hazleton's excusing if they want to work, they're excusing them for the day. So hopefully so far it's been a big help in trying to get people, because I know sometimes it's frustrating, especially at the last minute.
I know with ours, with our town events, we can give them community service hours and we can sign off on them, but that's only if they're not getting paid. If they're getting paid, you know, that excludes them from that. I mean, you can buy them lunch, you can do that kind of stuff, but you know, we did that.
For the poll worker recruitment, just back to that, I wanted to, just had a couple of things, questions on that. I know in the past, board members like to, I know a couple other board members have done it, like to sit in on some of the poll worker trainings, the judges, one of the judges and one, and is your preference that we contact you and let you know which one we would like to sit in on? I mean, personally, I don't need to sit at a table. I can sit in the back of the room if it's full, but what would your preference be, that we contact you?
If you just let me know. I mean, you're welcome to show up at any one of them. Like you said, the back's fine. I have no problem with that. But yeah, if you want to just let me know. But you're welcome at any of them. And you have the schedule, right? I believe Emily sent that over.
Okay. And then for the poll workers, just a confirmation that any poll workers that are recruited, brought in, there's always a review that they're not on the ballot or a government employee, and that they're a resident of Luzerne County.
Correct. Yep. We're making sure we stick to that.
I think you're on F. Swear.
Yeah, so the mailroom employees, they're going to be sworn in on the 10th at 8:30, along with everyone that will be working the logic and accuracy testing for the machine.
Where's the swearing in it?
It's going to be at the warehouse.
So they're coming over to do to
Yeah.
the warehouse
We'll
for
just
that.
do everyone that's going to do the logic and accuracy for the warehouse. We'll have the mailroom employees as well, because we're actually going to right after they're sworn in, we will have them deliver the drop boxes to make sure they're ready. And then, so the Jenkins Township Nanticoke City ballot question and explanation inserts, they are going to be in with the mail-in ballots.
Okay, can we,
I know there's a lot.
with that, can we include the Q&A sheet with the mail-in ballots? That was something we had talked about. Ballot return Q&A sheet for the mail-in ballots.
Do we have?
You mean the nursing home one? that we
Yeah, but
use for
it's
the nursing home?
not really a nursing home one. It's a generalization. I mean, can I drop off another voter's ballot? I mean, how many ballots can I return? Can I return multiple ballots from different households? I mean, you know, is it illegal to drop off multiple mail-in ballots without having an assigned, authorized, designated, in a blah, blah, blah form? And can I be a designated for several residents in a nursing home or rehabilitation facility? It only has one question at the bottom. We include this into you know, we keep talking about educating the public and giving them all the information they need. We include this into the mail-in ballots. We give them automatically all the information that they need on one simple sheet, one piece of paper. And I think it's a really good idea.
I think
If
you
we have to
sent
make a
that.
motion.
She did send that. I requested it in email. I think you were all included in it. The information sheet that's sent to the mail-in voters. And it does state in there, and I asked, you might have seen the reply, I asked if that could be highlighted in yellow.
Right, and it's just one little sentence. I would like this sheet included in our mail-in ballots, and that way it allows, if I have to make a motion, I will, but I mean, I think it answers everybody's question. How do I do this? Can I do this? Can I drop off someone else's ballot? Yes, you can, but how do I do that? It's right here. It shows you how. You know, we're talking about, we keep saying, we're going to educate the public. We're going to educate the public. Why not educate the ones that are actually using the mail-in ballots? And by putting this Q&A sheet in the thing, it answers every question that they have right there.
My question would be, is it too late to do that at this point?
I
Because I
think-
know you're
yeah.
saying they're going out Friday.
I can check. I can check to see if it is. I know we did have to send them everything that was going in like that, with the changes you have with the highlights, the other day. So I can
Erin.
see if that's, go ahead, Paula.
You also, I think, need to check with the Department of State on that, because I'm not sure if we can just add a sheet to the mail-in ballot.
Without their approval, maybe?
Right, correct. Because
Well,
what
if we could definitely check on that, I think it would be a great addition, and it would make all the world a difference. And I think you'd agree with that, Paula, too, right? Educating the public.
I agree as
should-
well. I'm not saying it's not a good idea. However, I'm saying that we may be violating something because we are
Right.
told by the state exactly what is to be on envelopes, what is to be in the envelope. So I'm not sure about that.
Right.
I'll check on that.
Okay.
Thank
I'll
you.
check on that first thing.
Appreciate it.
I think and unless anybody else has anything to add, I think we've completed agenda number 6. So we'll move to number 7. Jump in if I'm missing anything. Which is 7 is the Bureau of Elections 2023 budget presentation to the Board of Elections. And this was on I put this on the agenda for information. We had the memorandum of understanding that we discussed a while back and presented to the county manager. And one of the items on the memorandum of understanding, which is up on the website, is about the budget. that anything, the budget would be presented the proposed budget would be presented to the board members, and the board members could give recommendations back to the Bureau. So I just put it on because I know I've been reading in the paper that the budget's going to be presented to county council, and I didn't want to, and I know our next meeting isn't until the end of this month, October 25th. And then we go into election mode. And we don't have another meeting probably until after certification, a regular meeting. So when can this be done?
So it's being finalized right now, and then council will receive it on Tuesday. So I was just advised to let council see it first, and then the board can review it. So if
At our next meeting?
next meeting.
Okay. All right, I'll put it on the agenda for our next meeting. Does anybody else have anything to add to that?
And if you want to put the next one for that too, because it's kind of part of our budget too. We have that for you at the next meeting.
And that's the 2023
one.
election integrity grant, which
Yep.
was
The one we
item
just
number 8.
received. Okay.
Okay, so that, and I'll just read it, and then total grant money received, list of proposed uses for the grant money, and it was on the agenda for information and discussion. And Ms. Harvey's asking that we would, letting us know that we would get that information also at our next meeting, so we can move that to our next meeting agenda. Anyone want to add anything to that?
Now the nursing home letter, I know I sent it to everyone, but the county manager had some edits and changes. So this is the most revised one as of right now.
Actually, I added this to the agenda.
Okay.
So, I'm trying not to be angry today, but this is my baby. One of the issues we have had with this election board is communicating well with the Bureau, with the board, with elections as a whole, and Luzerne County is communicating properly with the public. By making generalizations and using improper English in documents or letters confuses people. It creates confusion. This letter, like I said, it was my baby. Okay, this was my effort to inform the public. It's one of those things that I'm most proud of passing while I've been in this position, and it was hijacked. Okay, it was used improperly. It's been, and it has upset me ever since. Okay, and I have tried to fix it numerous times, and I'm hoping we can fix it today. All right, number one, for your future reference, and I'm not trying to be mean here, I do not appreciate getting documents that we are to vote on 5 minutes prior to a meeting. It doesn't work out for certification. It doesn't work out for anything at all that ever, okay? Because then instead of paying attention to this meeting, I am sitting here poring over a letter trying to figure out what I can fix on this again, okay? That's number one. I really would appreciate if we are going to vote on something, at least 24 hours, at least, okay, please, I'm begging you. And it seems to happen quite often with this board. Okay, we get things last minute that we are supposed to vote on the next day or not even, okay, within hours. I'd really like to see that stop. Number two, will the Q&A sheet be going along with this? Okay, good. Number three, before approving this, which I did suggest some changes before, but the second sentence says, as you are aware, the general election is scheduled for November 7th, 2023. We are reaching out to your facility now because your area will be involved in the upcoming election for Luzerne County. it's not a special election, but the same language that was used in the special election is being used in this letter, and that's what I asked for it to be changed. So maybe we are reaching out to your facility now in preparation for the upcoming general election. Sounds much nicer. And then this, please note, is the part that has upset me since this letter came out. It is noted in an email back in 2020. When is it? Let me see. Hold on 1 second, I'll tell you exactly what date I sent it to Mr. Susik that I was very upset over it. I don't even need to get into that. What I do need to say is that we're talking about informing the public, sending a Q&A sheet, which they may or may not look at, but in this letter, we say if you're gonna drop off the ballots for your residents, how about if you're going to drop off a ballot for one of your residents, you will need to complete an enclosed authorized designate and then take out, you may make as many copies of this form. They know that they can make as many copies of that form because it's on the Q&A sheet. But that right there will eliminate it'll eliminate confusion as to them dropping off multiple ballots if we're telling them.
Whatever your edits are, do you?
Yeah, I will. The
Okay.
problem is, we're supposed to vote on this today to go out right now.
I don't know that we need to vote on it. That's my question. I mean, we can make suggestions and recommendations. The Bureau puts this letter out. We can make suggestions and recommendations. She can say, I'll make them, send us the revised copy, and they'll send out. I mean, I don't think we need to vote on this
Okay.
No,
And we voted on
Yeah.
just general, send the letter to the
revisions-
nursing home because you're.
I
messing
know,
things
but
up,
then
yeah,
on top of
in the
it, it
prior.
was like the language is almost hinting that you can send more ballots out, which is what we wanted to eliminate in the first place. And that's why it got me so upset with the first initial letter, was so like, hey, go ahead, send as many letters out as you want. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not what we originally wanted to do with this letter.
Why don't, here's my suggestion, whatever edits you have, if you even want to mark them up now, I can change them and send them to you first thing, because I do want to get these out.
I know, you have
tomorrow.
October 5th on here, which means.
That was my goal.
I know, and that's the problem with handing this to me the day before. And I, you know, we're all supposed to sit here and offer our suggestions, but suggestions don't get taken lightly or heavily rather, if you've got to send it out the next day, you know what I mean? That's not fair to you either. So that's what I'm talking about with that. I don't know if anybody else has any other issues with that or questions.
Okay, so
Let's do it
anybody that would like to send any revisions, send it directly to Ms. Harvey so she can get that out as soon as possible. Okay. Anything else on that before we move forward to comment on non-agenda items? Okay, this is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters not listed on the agenda, but which must be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. It's also limited to 3 minutes and 1 comment time per person. The microphone is on. We'll start in person. Go right ahead. We have someone in person who'd like to speak.
Hold on one second. That way, anybody will look.
State your name and municipality, please.
Linda Joseph, Wilkes-Barre. I just want to say that I think I agree 100% with Mr. Cerro and for all of you to put out as much information, especially on the subject of people dropping off other people's ballots. Something that has bothered me for a few elections now, and I've personally heard about it from friends, is that they had either a husband who couldn't go to vote in person, and how do we do this? And there was another situation, and I said, look, there's an affidavit, you have to fill it out, have them fill it out, and then you bring it with the ballot so that they know that you're the designee. Well, two of those people did exactly that. So after I asked them, I said, what did you do with the affidavit? Because I knew at Penn Place, there's nobody there actually collecting the affidavit. And they said, well, we brought it back and we just put the ballot in the box. And this is not the first time that's happened. It happened at a previous election. Now, I think I had asked, and I don't even know who it was, and they said, well, they have to know to take it upstairs. Now, I personally needed to do that at the last election for a friend who could not make it because of surgery. And I took it upstairs, but I knew that I needed to do that. People they don't know that, so they just walked away. Their ballots of those other people went in, but the affidavit did not go with it. So I think whatever education can happen, whether it's being able to put something in with it or with the nursing home, I think that's excellent because we have seen in the past, there was a lot of them when they were dropping off like 5 and 6 different ballots from the nursing homes. So that was one concern that I had. And then you've got drop boxes at other locations. Well, okay, at Penn Place, sure, you can tell them to take it upstairs. But what do you do with the other locations? If there's nobody there to get the affidavit and to prove that this is what they're doing, then to me, that was just a procedure thing that just didn't seem to work. So congratulations on, trying to get more information out there, but I think there's still some things that may slip through the cracks and that can happen. But I just know that people were frustrated that I made them fill out the affidavit and they didn't, they didn't have anywhere, they didn't have a clue what to do with it. Not even a sign, nothing there to say. So that's all. I just wanted to bring that to your
I didn't
attention.
want to interrupt you, okay? The designee form is just to be kept on file so that if you're questioned for having 3 or 2 ballots, actually, you can only do one and one other. Okay, so if you have 2 ballots, okay,
Right.
and you have that designee form, it's sort of like a power of attorney, okay? It needs to be kept on file for you, okay? It needs to be kept on file because if you're questioned as to why you're handing in 2 ballots, you have that on you when you go to drop it off and you have it on file. Okay, that's it. It's for you and to keep on file for when you drop off that additional ballot.
Okay. All right.
That's it. So you don't get in trouble for it.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
And when you go to drop it off, have it on you,
Yeah.
just in case anybody questions you, because you are in a sense voting.
Right.
So, that's something that needs to be taken seriously. And if you have that designee form, it just needs to be kept on file.
Just make sure it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think I'm going to reread that because I don't know that somebody can question you at a ballot drop box. But
I was talking about
I think the
security, but okay.
instruction-
Yeah, security.
I was talking about security, or if you're walking into the, like Mr. Susick had
Yeah.
people that he caught putting ballots in, and if he had said, hey, do you have that form? And they said, yes, I have a form, here it is.
Right.
It would have, that's what I mean by
Yeah,
question.
he's an election bureau employee.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
That's what I meant by being questioned.
okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. We don't have anybody else in person, so we'll move to the online platform. And if you'd like to speak, just click the raise hand bar. Or if you're on the phone, you may I don't see any hands raised. If you're on the phone, you may unmute yourself. And there's one person on a phone line, just go ahead and jump right in. And to unmute, I believe it's *6.
Is that better?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, it's Robin Koshan, Dallas Township. While we can appreciate you're willing to have a bipartisan team view some of the surveillance video footage, listening to the discussion, it's unbelievable that the early footage is past the statute of limitations and that you don't see the importance of viewing all footage. Random sampling, because it's more convenient for you, does not guarantee integrity and will never put the questions of integrity to rest until all footage is viewed. You talk about how busy you are at that time of year and too busy to view all footage, which is your responsibility if you insist on having these optional drop boxes. While we can appreciate it's a busy time, you are adding this complication to your schedules by insisting you have drop boxes, while at the same time not ensuring the integrity of this voting method. If you didn't have drop boxes to begin with, there would be absolutely no reason for any of this. It was stated you don't want to view all the footage because there could be lulls and blank screens. Since you're laying money out for drop boxes, why isn't the camera operated by motion sensor so you don't have to look at blank screens? Then you'd have no reason to not view all of the footage. You're already telling us this is an overly busy time of year and most likely tiresome. So we're supposed to believe that you're not going to miss a segment here or there. For your information, several right-to-knows have been filed by citizens to view the election surveillance footage. After needless obfuscation by the county, Judge Gelb issued a decision that the citizens must be allowed to view the footage anywhere where sorting, collecting, transposing, or counting of official ballots occurred. That includes drop boxes. Again, if there's absolutely nothing to hide, then why has the county been so unwilling to be transparent? And the DA apparently shares the same mindset as the board in being too busy to meet his obligations. The board and the DA have a duty to respond to public concern in a timely manner. But of course, we can only expect the statute of limitations will pass in this instance as well. Perhaps now the board can understand the public's frustration with the continued lack of transparency in this county. And again, until all the surveillance footage is viewed, the question of integrity will always surround the drop boxes. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Mr. Mangan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Fusaro. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Opposition? None heard. The meeting's adjourned at 7:42. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Everybody just turn their microphone.
I will. 'Cause I'm thinking back, I can.